Hello everybody, it's the 15th of May today, and returning subscribers may remember that a year or so ago, maybe 2 years now, I kind of set my heart on a cascading wisteria, and I tried air layering a couple of pieces from my lovely white wisteria, which I'll give you a look-see at in a minute, because it's looking rather glorious, even though it's not fully in flower yet. Those failed upon severing them, and then I also purchased from the supermarket a cheap plant which I put in this pond planter in the hope that I could train it to be a cascading tree. I think this is failure number 2, although if I do the thumbnail test, it is still green in points, although some of these extremities seem to be dying off. I guess I'll just keep a hold of it, keep watering it, and maybe it'll do something, or maybe it won't. In the meantime, I still want a cascading wisteria. That's what I want, so I'm going to try again. If the camera keeps wobbling, I do beg your pardon, it's on a tripod, but a certain gorgeous collie called Cooper is keeping me company, and every now and again he has to wriggle a bit closer. At some point he's going to be completely under the tripod, which would be a bit of a nightmare, but there we go. So here is my rather beautiful, if I do say so myself, white wisteria, growing away. It seems to be getting a bit top heavy that side, and less so that side, so I may have to remedy that and perhaps chop this side back a little bit later in the spring, later in the year rather. For now I just want to enjoy all those flowers. As you can see, the flowers are just starting to open. Some of them are a little bit position themselves a little bit poorly in terms of these leaves, but once they get going and they start drooping some more, the flowers are probably 2 foot long, and it is quite splendid, and I look forward to posting a picture or 2 of that later in the year, in a couple of weeks probably. You might also remember that I had some Chinese wisteria seed sent to me by a subscriber named Stefan, very kindly. Sent me, I think it was about 10 or 12 seeds, and I got 4 of them to germinate and grow for the last few years. And they're not huge, they've been in these little pots, which is probably why they're not huge. But I've decided that these 2 in the front here, splendidly bendy and whippy and growing away quite nicely, could be new candidates for this project. These are the 2. I'll probably just leave them again this year and just let them grow. All of these are a way off of flowering, but still, fun is fun, and I'm having fun. I have 2 rather nice pots in mind. I've got this splendid pot that this was the pot I tried to do the white wisteria seeds layers in, which failed. So I'm going to reuse that, and then I have this stoneware pot, which isn't as ideal. I like the shape, I like the colour. It hasn't got as good drainage. And I suppose if I went out and bought one, I could probably get a masonry bit to make this hole a bit larger, but I'm going to fill the bottom quarter, well, 1/8 probably, with grit, and mainly grit. And I'll have to make sure it gets put over the bench so that that hole's over the slot rather than the slab of the bench, as it were. And then, in theory, it should still be able to drain okay. I've moved the camera now, and Cooper is fully underneath it, so hopefully he won't hear something, jump up and decide to run. Not that he can run very far or very fast, but he could probably run fast enough to knock the camera over. Train of thought. So, this isn't my normal bonsai mix that I'm mixing up here. This is heavy on the organic side, because I plan to put these trees into these pots, and they're going to be quite big pots in relation to what they're in now, and I plan to leave them in there for several years, at least 2 years, if not 3 or 4. Don't know how well they do, of course. So it's probably it's roughly by eye 50% peat-free compost, which is quite rough and full of bits, like so, and about 20% cat litter and about 30% grit, roughly. All I say, not measured out particularly, just done by eye. And I'm hoping this will get the trees off to a good start. They're a nice deep root line, and be away. So, starting with this one, I'm going to pop the drainage screen in. I'm just hoping, the weight of the compost will hold this into place. I'm not going to wire it in. Is that in right place? Yes. And then a drainage layer of grit, which is dustier than I thought, but there you go. Been sat in that bucket for a little while. Yes, you can't see, but it's up to about here. And then I'm trying to move around the bucket of compost, the tripod legs, and not trip over the collie at the same time. Anyway, so I won't make you watch me fill this one scoop at a time. So I think this is the tree I'm choosing for this one, and I just offer it up. I think I've got enough soil in the bottom. I'm not going to really do much work to these roots, not in the middle of May. I just break them apart a little. That's going to sit in there relatively nicely. Maybe another scoop or two. Okay, so I'm wiring it in the pot rather than in the new pot, because it's stable in here. Therefore I'm going to do less damage to it, and then it can go in the new pot and bent into place if it needs any manoeuvring after. I've left myself plenty of wire. I shan't cut it off because I will reuse this piece eventually. Okay, so I think I like it this way. Planted there, it'll sweep down the side of this pot, and then eventually, as this trunk extends, I will try and persuade it to come across the front in subsequent choppings as it grows. I mean, I could put it in diagonally, but I think I prefer it going off to the side and back round. So let's do that. I'm going to put in a good dollop of slow release fertilizer, it'll be just below the roots but at the top of the soil here, so it should, in theory, the roots will quest down into it, and then as it's watered, the feed will go down to the bottom of the pot and the roots can chase it. I know no one's told them that, but that's the plan. So let's break that up a little more. Yeah, liking it. I'm liking it. So now all I need to do is fill her in. I quite like that. I have to say, I quite like that. Yeah. Okie dokie. Let's shift a few bits. Bring that back to the center and see if I can give you a twirl without tripping over the dog. So there we go. Obviously I'm not going to touch the trunk. I will probably prune this back next month, and I'm going to leave the top probably for this whole year, just to try and put some oomph into these trunk, some oomph into the trunk, whatever the bloody hell that means. I don't know. But anyway, I think you get the point with that. What I could do is if I can find a little piece of wire that's, or maybe I could just tie a piece of string around the pot and just hold that like that, which I think I will, but I'll do that off camera. Okay, same plan for the next one. I've already part filled the pot and wired the tree. Again, slug in there, get out of it. Break open the bottom of the root ball a little, but I don't want to do too much to it at this time of the year. Farmer's in the field, Cooper's telling him to get knotted, aeroplanes going over. Nobody cares about the sound in my videos. Oh dear. Okay, aeroplane's gone, Cooper stopped barking. This one, I think I would quite like that if the tree would bend to the left slightly, and then I always do things to one side or the other. I don't know if that's because I'm right-handed. I have no idea how the psychology of that might work, but I'd like this tree to come over the front as if it's leaping towards us, as it were. Yeah, do I like it like that? I do like it like that. This is the main trunk, which at the moment is somewhat shorter than these side pieces, and this piece, which will eventually become a head. It's going to need a little bit of support to do so. So let's see if we can find a little bit of wire. Okay, so I'll pop a little bit of wire alongside that. I like so. Anchor it in place, and then I can ask that piece, would you kindly step up for me? Thank you so much. Okie doke. Right, now then, fill that in. Oh, a little bit of slow release fertilizer first. And actually I think another scoop or two of soil on top of that, just to bring the plant up a little more. Yes, I'm liking it. Okay, so we'll fill that in. Did I say at the beginning of this video, I don't recall, that these trees were grown from seed? I did, because I mentioned that it was a guy called Stefan that kindly sent them to me, I remember now. But yes, so that was 3 or 4 years ago. And I understand Wisteria from seed can take 10 years or so to flower. So we've got a few years to wait for flower, but that's, you know, we'll use that in some time for bulking up these trunks, perhaps. I say perhaps because, well, there are never any guarantees in life, and you plant a tree, you hope it grows. A little scoop. A bit more of that, a bit more of that. Okay, I found a cane which I'll place like so, and then I'll ask that to hold on to that with a little bit of wire as an assist. There we go, that's better, gives it a little bit of support. And then let's give you a 360. I think I might need to do something with that also. Yeah. Anchor that like so. And then that piece can just be gently persuaded to go off. Twin trunk. Nah, maybe. I don't know. Time will tell. We'll come back and look at this later in the year. Now though, all there is to say is thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Do all the usual YouTube things, liking, subscribing, comment below, but most of all, please, 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 stay safe everybody.